A reading from the Gospel of Mark. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered round him, and he was by the lake. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue, named Jairus, came, and when he saw him, fell at his feet and begged him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live." So he went with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhaging for 12 years, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. For she said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." Immediately her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked all round to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling, fell down before him, and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." While he was still speaking, some people came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. When he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. Then he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl got up and began to walk about. She was 12 years of age. At this, they were overcome with amazement. He strictly ordered them that no one should know this and told them to give her something to eat. So in today's gospel, we are met with much goodness. First, we are told about the woman who has been hemorrhaging for at least 12 years and who is so humble that she doesn't want to bother Jesus, but her faith is such that she believes that if she just touches his garment, that she will be made healed. She'll be made well. And indeed, this is what happens. She touches his garments, and the problem that she has been burdened with for 12 years dissipates. Jesus wants to know, as he notices power went out of him, who touched him. And this woman, though with fear and trembling, is brave enough to come and admit to him that it was she. And he blesses her and tells her to go in peace. Then he makes it on over to Jairus' house, where, of course, people are telling him basically that he's wasting his time because his daughter has died. But Jesus tells them not to fear. She's only sleeping, for which he's laughed at, actually. It's so amazing to me that people could actually see and witness the miracles that Jesus did, and yet they still would fail to believe, and they laughed at him. And of course, Jesus goes in and restores life to this young 12-year-old girl, justifying the faith of the people around him. I don't know about you, but I pray that I would have the faith of either of these two, this woman or Jairus, the faith that he had in Jesus, that he would come when his daughter was ill. We need that kind of faith today. With that kind of faith as a witness, people would flock to Jesus. And boy, don't we want them to do that for their sake. Amen.